This presentation isn't going to be an hour and a half like the last one. I would hope not. Yep.
Hi.
Hey, Craig.
Hi. You got a good chair. Somebody didn't steal.
You got a good one?
I got a good one. That's kind of a random.
It is. It's a gamble every time.
I'm good right now.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Doing well. A lot of proponents, people from Meade, Valley Center. Dean Coleman, Mark Coleman. Norman, he spoke on special ed behalf. Who's the
Hey, Chris or Kyle, do we have Tammy on?
Yep, Tammy is on.
All right. Thank you.
Valley Center? He's a legislative. Casey. Applied for the assistant director position after he already hired.
That's the air conditioner, right? Not the heater.
Yeah, I just think we need some air moving. Yeah.
Big mistake in wearing a sweater. Pass out. Oh. I call to order this meeting of USD 49 Board of Education for February 22nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Some board members are in the room tonight. In fact, 6 of us are. All 7 are in attendance. Board member Wellbrock is attending by Zoom. Tonight's agenda is posted on Board Docs, which is available through the USD 49 website. I move to accept the agenda as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about the agenda? Oh, yes.
Do we need to have an executive session before 6:4 or 6:5?
Yes, but I think what we can do is have the motion and then have an amendment to move into executive.
Okay.
Actually, if you do that, I'd just move it down. We'll just move it down right now. Are you planning to do the executive session?
Yes.
Okay, so.
What are we needing an executive session for?
I just,
get the contract.
to just make that move right now. You can't do 6.4, that can't be an executive session, that's not personnel. 6.5.
Right, correct.
So you're just gonna drop it down to 8,
That's the way to go. I was just going to actually, just during the motion, have somebody make an amendment. If it passes, then we go to executive session.
Okay, is that what you want to do? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I guess Tammy voted yes. Anybody voting no? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes 7-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Good. Okay, now we'll move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda for tonight includes board meeting minutes from January 11th, the Recreation Commission meeting minutes from January 27th, and the agenda from February 24th, personnel transactions, financial reports, and the approval of the drop-down volleyball system, as discussed during our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Lori. Do I have a second to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I
Yep.
would like to pull out 2.5. I'd like to have a little discussion on that, please. I don't know where you want to put it.
Well, let's move it down to discussions. So let's move,
Thank you.
let's move 2.5 down to 6.4. Does that work, everybody? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Nope, we're still in discussion, I'm sorry. You just, yes, the motion is seconded, now I'm going to move to discussion. Craig, please remind me to call the vote, because I always forget. We have 9 new hires. Want to welcome aboard Devin, Jorge, Lexi, Catherine, Macy, Emma, Marshall, Lauren, and Dawn. Welcome to USD 49. We also have 6 resignations. We are saying goodbye to Carol, Maggie, Hannah, Alyssa, and Mary and Marty Straub. Quick note, I've known Marty Straub for quite a number of years. I'm sure some of you have known him longer. I appreciate his service to USD 49. The district is a better place because of him. Any more discussion, anybody?
I'd just like to comment, I wish Marty well with his resignation and his further plans. He has always brought to our district what is good for kids and what is good for public education. And also, Mary Straub will be missed by the entire district also because she was one of the key people in our reading instruction at the elementary areas.
Nice. Very good.
I would like to just comment also that that's going to be a big loss. Appreciate all their service, and like you, I've known Marty for over 25 years and worked with him for 25 years and no longer than that. And he's a great asset to the community. He serves a lot of different groups, and he'll be missed. So thank you for all your service. All of our resignations, thank you for your service.
Yes. Very good, thank you. I'm going to call for a vote now on the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Chris, or whoever's monitoring the thing, if Tammy is unable to vote, let me know. All right, now we're moving on to public comment. This meeting is open to the public, and I welcome comments from the public. Would anyone like to step forward tonight and speak before the board? And if so, I have a few things to read. If not, okay, I don't see any hands raising. So, moving on to item number 4, presentations. We'll have a presentation tonight of the Hayes High soccer field donation. We will hear tonight from Silas Hibbs, HHS soccer coach. Do you have anything to add, or should we just move right into it? Okay.
I'll just introduce Mr. Hibbs a little bit. We'll talk. A few weeks ago, Mr. Hibbs got in touch with me. We scheduled a meeting. We met with Mr. Straw, Mr. Cranletter over at the high school. And it was basically the proposal that you're going to hear about tonight, and the proposal that they shared with me. I think it has a lot of merit in terms of what it could hope to accomplish at Hayes High and with our soccer program. So let me let Mr. Hibbs take it over and
All right,
share.
very good.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and thank you, board, for your time. I appreciate it. I'm just going to test out my clicker. It works. All right, great. So, as you said, my name is Silas Hibbs. I'm in my 4th year here at Hayes High School as head boys soccer coach, and before that I was the coach for the women's program for a couple of years. And long story short, this has been a project that's been in the works since my coming here. What this presentation is going to entail today is just kind of overview the current context of our situation, the proposed GIF, and kind of what we're looking to do as far as enhancements to the facility and kind of the specifics of where we're proposing. And I want to highlight this point. This is a funded and committed addition. This isn't necessarily something that we're asking for. We'll get into some more details later, as I'm sure you'll have questions, but that's the key point I want to drive home for us this evening, is that this is a lot of people's work over the last 4 years to be able to come to you today. And so I'm really thankful for the support here as well. So that being said, and finally, it's the why, the vision and value proposition. You know, you can't get there if you don't know where you're going, and this is a huge piece of where we're going. So without further ado, let's get into the current context. So we currently have one soccer field at Hayes High School, and that soccer field doubles for both the girls and the boys programs, varsity and JV programs, as a practice and a game facility. Okay? As you can imagine, with football, we have a practice football field, for example, as well as a football game field, so on and so forth. Soccer, we do it all in one, and we actually do it 75% of the year. So that being said, we have a fall season for boys, spring season for girls, not to mention the summer season that accommodates all the soccer programs throughout the entirety of the summer, similar to summer weights, etc. So as you can imagine, a lot of wear and tear if we're not very careful or very good stewards of our facility. And I'm actually proud of our boys and our coaches. We've done a really good job kind of keeping that amidst the traffic in really good condition, and that was kind of a goal of ours. I'm also going to highlight here the strategic decisions. So one of the reasons we're able to come in front of you today, and this is just a small example, one example to kind of show how much skin we have in the game. When I was a coach, when I started 4 years ago, I made a strategic decision to say, hey, I'm not going to pay Fort Hayes $250 a game to maybe get their access for that one facility and then have it maybe amount to nothing. We said we're going to play at our home field, which we had, I don't know if you guys have the context on the current facility, but that was a donation. That was a very nice gift from some very prominent people in town with regards to making the program better. And so we said we want to honor that gift. We want to continue to play there. We really want this to be our home long term. And because of that result, over the last 4 years, we've saved $14,000 in my soccer budget alone with respect to choosing to play games at our field. So that's just one small piece of the puzzle, one small mini decisions that we've made strategically to be able to come in front of you today. So I think that's kind of an example of our stewardship and how much skin we have in the game. And then lastly, amidst all the traffic, amidst all of the activity, it's still one of the best conditioned fields because we're very intentional with how we use it, how we manage practice, how we manage games. And so what that has resulted in is people in the community that want to invest in us and want to continue to grow that facility. They've seen we've been good stewards. They know we have skin in the game, and they want to help. And it's been pretty cool and really encouraging on my half, because you worked for something like this for 40 years, right? So it's really, really awesome to have their support. What is going to be funded, what's committed, and again, stress, funded and committed. We have dirt work for leveling 2 fields. We've shot the grades. We know exactly what we're looking at as far as dirt movement. Trenching and irrigation for the fields. Note, I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit. Bermuda seed. We are very cognizant of the type of environment we're in here in Hays, Kansas, as well as the water issues that might present themselves at times. And so the fact of the matter is, we selected the best grass for soccer, which happens to be Bermuda grass, happens to be drought tolerant, and happens to be very water economical for our program long term. Not only that, we have 2 quick goal soccer backstops being donated. You might wonder what the value is in those. If you forward through in the presentation, you'll see where the soccer field sits, right in between the practice football field, right in between the baseball field as well. When we miss shots on the goal, when we're practicing, we're interrupting other people's practices, we're hitting players, the baseball team's done a great job building their facility, and we're hitting it with their balls. That's not being a good steward or respectful to Tony or to Dusty. So 2 big soccer backstops, which will help with the balls, interfering with other activities during the same season. Most importantly, we all live in western Kansas. We know the wind is a real issue. Nothing like a good little shelter belt when it comes to Austrian pine trees. These are KSU-approved trees, very fast-growing trees. Spectator comfort, wind protection, you guys can see. Just really, we want to make that our designated game field for both the girls and the boys. This isn't just a boys program. This isn't just a girls program. This is kind of the soccer community of Hays High and going forward. So anything you want to add, or we're going to be going good? All right. And then lastly, obviously digging, there's a lot of work that's going to be taking place as far as the movement, and we have that done as well, not to mention a drip system for the trees. So we have a lot of investment and it's not just 1 or 2 people, it's a lot of different people that have come together for this, and as much as I want to tell you who they are, this is what's pretty cool, is they do want to remain anonymous, and they're the type of people that want to give with their left hand and not let their right hand know what they're doing, and that's what is really cool to me. And if I know there might be times where we need to communicate who and what, and we'll be prepared to do that when the time is right, but just want you to know that that's the case. I'm sure that's a question in your head. So that being said, these are the locations. So this is straight west, and I need to point out to you guys, the current game field is the one with the perimeter around the Austrian pine right there in the middle, and that is our current and only facility. The proposed, initially when we started doing this, we thought, hey, stack them up side by side in the left pane, the 2 green fields. But as we shot the dirt work and got a little bit more context, we actually concluded that it might be better to kind of put it south horizontally, to kind of let the natural flow that ground kind of go back into the ravine there, and yeah, go from there. Also, I think it'd be really good for tying into the current irrigation system that we would need to get into the water community grass to get it up and going. We do have some alternates. We know that when we call it dig safe, there might be some issues that come up. These are all alternate locations if we would have it. We're committed to do these 2. And why 2? 2 for a variety of reasons, but the fact of the matter is, when the boys are in the off-season, they don't have a place to play and practice, and vice versa for the girls. That would be 1. 2 fields spread across is minimal maintenance and better stewards of the current field. We can actually spread practice around more, alleviate wear and tear, so on and so forth. And then lastly, we have a designated game field, which again, only be played on for games, maybe walkthroughs, but very strategic in our playing for 2 practice fields, given the nature of what we're looking to do and manage grass wear and tear. So, that being said, it's a fine print slide. I'm not going to get into the details, but why here? There's not a soccer-only space in Hays. I don't know if you guys know that. There's not a soccer-only space for practice use in Hays, Kansas. And so this is something that the soccer community has realized. They see the value. They want that. This is important to us. Not only that, it's located on Hays High's campus. We don't want high school kids driving across town, getting in wrecks, doing that sort of thing, going from there. No cannibalization of other Hays High activities or facilities. That's important. As you can imagine, sometimes facilities, there's a lot of demand for certain units. This kind of allows us to say, hey, we're going to go off and do our own little thing here. You guys can have your space. We're not going to cannibalize each other. We're going to get along. we just, we're going to make wise use of our space, and you can do your thing over there, we'll do a thing over here, and everybody's happy, and it makes for a better long-term program for everyone long-term. Well, that's wear and tear, we've talked about that, designated space. There's a lot of options for us, and I'm kind of talking pretty quickly. There's a lot of options for us to build PBL and real-life learning situations when it comes to the development of this space, whether it be some different agronomic classes at Hayes High School. I'm a business teacher at Hayes High School when it comes to planning, the cost that we've kind of compiled. There's a lot of just hands-on, it's real and tangible with these guys back here. They actually have a lot greater learning experience, not to mention they're going to be a big part of making this a reality. So that being said, why start now? I think you guys can see the bullets. We have the time, we have the funding. We'd like to, our goal is to get this done and ready for the fall of 2021. And that would be planning immediately, grading work immediately as soon as the weather allows, late spring planting of the Bermuda grass, so on and so forth. That's our goal, and we're aggressive in asking to get started. We actually have guys that will be ready to work tomorrow when we get the okay. So it's kind of, we're coming to you, wanting your blessing, wanting your encouragement, and then at the same time, just letting you know that there's some people that have been working pretty hard to come in front of you today. So that's all I got. Anything you got? Any questions?
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Because before we go.
I just had a quick question on, I know a number of years ago, at least I thought, looking back through some notes, I thought there were some watering issues out there in the field. Is that anything that we've?
Well, okay, let me answer that, because that was the first question that I had, and Silas says, he's done some work too. We have 3 wells out there that take care of all of our fields, baseball, soccer, football. Those 3 wells are alternated, meaning we use the first well, we meter it and we monitor it weekly in terms of the use, especially when we're using it. And once we reach a certain level, then we switch over to well number 2 and then do the same process, and then we switch over to well number 3. Now, we've been very fortunate, and this is information from Rusty, we've been very fortunate the last few years because we've been very wet. And so the wells have not been really an issue the last few years. Now, with that said, we know where we live, and we know the possibility of getting into a serious drought is likely at some point. That is a concern. And at that point, what we would have to probably make some judgments on how we strategically water. It would not necessarily be to keep everything pristine. It would probably be just to keep everything surviving and hoping for a wet, rainy experience to come along. So, that is a logical concern. But I think we do have the capacity out there. We do monitor it. And they are, using a Bermuda grass that I think, is pretty hardy and can thrive in some pretty tough conditions.
Thank you.
I would like to congratulate you. You've done an excellent job, and I know that for instance, the baseball field was coach-driven, and we have a really great facility out there. So I know how much work that goes into something like this. It's very important for our kids to have good facilities, and if a coach is involved, then we have great things that can happen. A couple of concerns that I'm looking at this, what's our strategic plan? I mean, if we use this, where we're going to put a second baseball field, where we're going to put a softball field, and that is kind of a concern of where all that would be. I know that we have those wells, and I was in the district when we had to shut those wells off, and I think Lance was too, and so I know he knows about that. And then we had to just, in the middle of summer, because we used our allotment. And that's a real concern that could happen, because I know that we have to report that to the state every year. And Hayes High's in that aquifer that we have to regulate that, and we cannot add any more wells. There's no more water to get. So we only have a certain amount. So that's something we have to look at to see the other options of how we could maybe bank water somehow from runoff, some way that we can figure out ways to solve some of those issues. I mean, there's ways to solve it. But we do, it's very 4 fields is very ambitious, and that would be great. And I'm sitting here on board looking at what we're going to do with our softball program. We have 0 fields. What are we going to do with, baseball should have a second field. And I know that our community is concerned about what academics first, and, they're really concerned about that. So is this just information right now, or are we voting?
There's nothing to vote on.
I would be asking the board to approve accepting the gift. Because they are a little on a time.
The concern I have is just that when we have great presentations like this, it's like whoever's our first presentation will, and then everybody else who says, oh, well, I wish they're just second in line, they didn't get in here. But they have just as much of a concern and just as much a problem that we need to look at all of that. We talked about that as a board, that we should have a strategic plan, we should look at it, get our community involved. And that's just an option that we ought to really pay attention to and to see what, because I know you have a lot of kids. You have about 80 kids?
So at the high school, you'd say about 80 kids.
Per season?
Yep, 80 kids for both, that'd be girls and boys collectively.
Oh, together?
2 varsity and JV, but that doesn't include a lot of the summer activities that we do, and just like you said, with the weight room, it'd be youth all the way up to high school. It ends up being about like close to, when it comes to girls and boys together, right a little under 100 kids, so.
Currently, do you use the Bickle Schmidt?
Currently, that is actually zoned by the city as a game-only
Right.
facility.
Game only?
Game-only facility, and that's a little bit different style of grass, as you can imagine, a little more protected. That's a fescue grass and not really conducive for soccer. It's kind of shared with football
Do
as
you
well.
use it occasionally or not?
We
Oh, yeah.
do not use it.
Not for JV games or anything?
Nope, no, we don't. That's a great question.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
and just so you, Alan, just so you understand, this is a donation. This does not cost
Sure.
the district anything. This is probably realistically anywhere from a $60,000 to an $80,000 donation. I mean, this is a substantial donation that it's an amazing, donation that, and you talk about, well, maybe we need to look at other ways. The easy way to solve this is a turf field. I mean, that would take care of, you could have one field and play on that and wear it down, and you wouldn't see any effects. But, I think the thing is, that's where we just have to make sure we understand.
What maintenance, I mean, it's going to take a lot of maintenance, and that's going to be part of our maintenance crew?
We did talk about that. We talked extensively about that. Maintenance is really fairly minimal. There'll be some additional mowing, but you have to remember we've given up property at Washington that we are no longer mowing, and property at Munger that we are no longer taking care of. So as far as any additional maintenance, that's probably just going to be switched off, and it really, I still don't even know if it will be spent in those 2 locations.
And to clarify, it's 2 fields, not 4. That's a big bite to chew, 4. We'd love 4, but it's only 2 fields.
So it's the 2 green ones are your ideal ones?
The 2, I'm sure the presentation is, actually,
For scenario 2 is what I was looking at.
Scenario 2, yeah, it almost looks like a backwards L.
And is that then replacing or taking in that batting building? Is that including
actually,
that? Removing it?
As she pulls it up, it'll help you see. That's east of the outfield, east of left field, over the hedgerow, and then over the little roadway that goes in between. So if I go back here, you can see here the baseball field, where this area, the actual baseball hitting range is to the west of our game field, actually. So it's not anywhere close. That's where I'm putting the big nets, and we're going to smash every once in a while with softball and keep it over and pretend it goes, and like a soccer player getting hit, our football players getting hit in the head with soccer balls either during practice,
So it's in between those 2?
It's actually in that space. It's currently that land that we lease it out to the farmer, just to the east of our current soccer field. So it's tillable land. It's very, it's wide open space.
All right, hey, Tammy, do you have anything to add? Oh, sorry, Craig.
Coach Hibbs, I want to compliment you on your presentation. This is one of the best presentations I've heard to the board on anything like this. And I compliment you for trying to get facilities, because that's what we're trying to do too, is get facilities for our students that we're lacking. No matter whether they're soccer, fine arts, I've gotten a lot of calls. I wish we could get a donation of an auditorium for the fine arts kids as well as the soccer people, different things like that. Okay, back to where I was at.
You're good.
Okay, one of the things on the board, for the board side is if we approve this, is the safety, and I'm kind of looking at Mr. Jeter. If we have a volunteer group coming in to work on the school grounds, are we okay liability? Will they still be using the teacher driveway and parking lot, or can we make a back entrance into there? So I want to concentrate on the safety of all the equipment and construction workers if we do approve it.
Just a brief answer to that. Under the Tort Claims Act, there's a recreational use exception, which would probably apply here. And therefore, I'm not sure you'd have any tort liability. But it kind of, it's such an open-ended question. It depends on what are we talking about? What kind of an injury?
Well,
Or if somebody gets run over by a vehicle
Or
or
if you've got
steps in a
heavy
hole and
equipment
breaks
coming
their
in.
leg, I mean, there's so many different potential things that could happen anywhere doing anything.
Right.
I wouldn't in any way decide that you don't want to do this project because you're concerned about liability. I don't think that's an issue here.
Okay.
It'd be so remote.
I'll
that-
redirect it. If we do approve, please work with people to see if there's routes that we can take, because I know how busy the backside of the high school is with before school, after school. If we can find different ways to get construction through there without trying to run with the high school crowd with the cars coming in and out.
Very valid concern.
I think it's a great opportunity, and I congratulate you for obtaining this opportunity for our school. I think this is absolutely excellent.
The credit goes to a lot of these boys and their families for coming together, and a lot of people in the community. It's been a pretty cool thing to see it come together like this.
Ron, where would we
Thank
put the other facilities that we're looking at?
You're talking a softball?
And maybe another, I know baseball would like another one and two softball fields.
We have a tentative plan that this does not in any way, shape, or form squeeze anything whatsoever. There is a long-term plan that, I've not really shared that with the board because we don't have the funds right now to do that, but it's ready to go at some point. Should that be an option? But this, it would not squeeze anything. There'd be plenty of room for those facilities that you're talking about. And my hope is that we can do this. The one thing I would say, and I would echo what Silas has said, this is awesome that a group of people have said, hey, we would like to make a difference, a positive difference for our kids in our community, and I just love that. The thing I am disappointed that we can't do this on our own. That we couldn't put a first-rate soccer complex at this point, and hopefully someday we will. I'll just give you a little snippet of, I kind of felt really bad when I found out that Liberal, who is in our league, they are turfing 2 middle school soccer fields. That's their middle school soccer fields. So.
Yes, Tammy, go ahead. That's Tammy talking it out.
Okay.
I'll have Chris read mine.
We can hear you fine if you, here I'll read for Tammy. Here are my thoughts. All organizations have the same opportunity to come forward with ideas, including donation of funds. I realize that this may create some changes to our overall strategic planning with softball field but I strongly encourage the rest of the board to support this donated effort. It still fits within our overall goals to provide quality offerings for our students, and this is an opportunity we can't afford to pass up.
I'm going to go ahead and say, in accordance with what Tammy says, I see no reason to not move forward and support this. They have the money, it looks like they have it, and just because we can't not say, just because the other teams can't do it right now, that we can't hold them up. They have the money, I say we should move forward, so I'm not sure if this calls for a vote, but I would like to say let's move forward and support them, because they have it now, and we should push it.
And no reason to kick a gift horse in the mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a Southern saying. I know that one. What? They don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
All right, let me just read the motion. The motion is to accept donations for the installation of 2 practice soccer fields and other in-kind donations at the current game field.
Second.
That's, I move.
I thought you were saying.
Well, I move to pass the motion I just read.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion that's been different than we've talked about already?
Yes, Mike, just want to say I'm going to vote against it, not because I don't support this. We just got this 3 days ago, 4 days ago, and I just feel like we need to spend a little bit more time planning, and I didn't know if we could postpone it just 2 weeks, just so we can get more information. I would like to be able to support it full force. And I'm sorry, but I can't do that tonight.
I appreciate
Just
your
more
transparency.
information. I don't know if we need bleachers, I don't know if we need restrooms, I don't know if we need, how much if we can have the water, because I know we don't have unlimited water source. And I hate to build it and then it die.
Any other comments?
The only comment I have,
discussion.
and I still think it is a really good proposal, is I know some of the community, if you've lived in Hayes long enough, there was another project at Hayes High that was started as strictly donation, and the board came back a few years later and spent money on it. And there was a bad taste in the community by a lot of people. So my support will be that it is a completely, I will be going along with the donation of the field. If we don't get the field built, we'll have to go out and get more donation.
Okay. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Okay. I think the motion passed 6-1, but is that right, everybody? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Motion passes 6-1. Please vote electronically the same way. Thank you very much.
Thanks for all your work. Time, and I appreciate your transparency. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Good luck.
All righty, let's move on to district communication. Ron has some things to tell us. Update on the vaccine,
Yeah.
COVID update, building principal searches, Roosevelt HVAC, Rockwell basement, and our last week's cold spill. So
There you go. Just want to run through some stuff with you. On vaccinations. We are working hard to get our staff vaccinated. We have struggled probably getting a little traction going to get. I was hoping that we would have quite a few more of our staff vaccinated. We're kind of at the mercy of what the disbursement is for the county. We're still not getting a large disbursement. We get about 400 doses a week. Those are also, reserved for individuals who are 65 or older, not just teachers. We're all in the same phase. And so the Dallas County Health Department's done a great job of working with us, and they're trying their best to get those vaccines for us. Right now, I would say probably, just a ballpark figure, we probably ought to have 100 staff members vaccinated. Now, a lot of them have been able to get out to Walmart and get in line there, get registered, and get vaccinated there. So we're very, very appreciative. We've also had a person from the Hill City Pharmacy who has reached out. She is receiving about 100 vaccines a week. She is, of course, vaccinating the people in Graham County, Hill City. But if she does have extra, she has been working with us and coming down and doing some vaccinations for us. And I think she did about 25 last week. So we're just, a lot of people doing some great things. We're just hoping that we'll pick up steam and we can get more staff vaccinated. COVID update, it's just pretty typical. Our numbers have spiked a little bit, but then they've kind of settled in here, and we're hopefully we'll continue to see a trend down going forward. I did want to talk a little bit about the legislative update. The two bills that I kind of just want to draw attention to for the board, just so maybe in a sense you can help follow these, and if you do have contact with some representatives or senators, this might be helpful. One's I think good news, and one's maybe not so good news. I'm going to talk with first one. It's called Senate Bill 31, and this is a bill that is going. It really hasn't gotten a lot of press, but I do think for our purpose, our district, it's a great bill. This gives state aid for bond proposals that are out in the approved by a district. So we would be able to maybe leverage some state aid. This is because Fort Leavenworth has always been part of the calculations for the state aid, and the proposal in Senate Bill 31 takes Fort Leavenworth off of that. And the reason Fort Leavenworth counts against there is it's a military facility, and so they have no assessed valuation, and that's how it's kind of calculated. How it would help us as a district is we would be able to receive a small amount of state aid should we ever decide to approve a bond issue. Now, from previous attempts, I believe Hayes has never had the opportunity for any state aid. So this bill, Senate Bill 31, is pretty important for our district, because it would give us the opportunity to leverage a small amount of state aid. For example, I've been in previous districts that had a 40% state aid applied to the bond. So for every dollar, you were getting 40 cents from the state, and locally it was only paying 60 cents. I doubt our aid would be anything close to that. We are a district that has a little higher assessed valuation, so our percentages would be fairly small, but pretty significant, as in that we would be able to get some dollars that would help from the state, help us pay for a bond issue. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's a bill that hasn't gotten a lot of press, but it's out there, and hopefully will get approved.
Okay.
Another bill that has gotten a lot of press, and it's House Bill 2119. This is a bill that just is looking at shifting some funds that are designated for our public schools to private schools, should they, for eligible students who are choosing to, and when I say eligible, that would be free and reduced students who would choose to go to a private school. So basically what we'll be able to do is take on the funding that our district receives per pupil, the base per pupil rate, they would be able to take those funds, because they meet the eligibility criteria of free and reduced, and being at a school they are designated, would not be, or they're not performing at the level that they feel like they should be, could take those funds. Now, the problem with that is, and it's, I think, pretty obvious, is those funds are designated, from the state for public schools. And this would now be allowing those funds to go to private schools. And they would be setting up an account, and it would be something for them to pay for tuition at private schools. We have opposed this, our simple administration, we've sent letters, and tried to let them know that this is not something we support. It's not supported across the state for all public schools. It's maybe one of those things that makes me a little nervous, because each year we hear about things like this, but it seems like this year we're getting more traction than normal. So, once again, as a board member, if you do have contact with any representatives or state senators, please reach out and let them know that this is not a good bill. So those are two things I wanted to share with on a little legislative update.
Okay.
Of course, we just have had some retirements. Mr. Straub has submitted his resignation, and so we will be looking for a principal case high. Just an update, we have set up interviews for Laughlin next week. We will be interviewing all week. We've got a busy week next week, and we'll be bringing in some really good candidates, and hopefully we'll have a candidate for you to approve the March 8th meeting, hopefully. And I'm planning to meet with the high school staff on Wednesday to talk about the process that we'll use at Case High to select the next high school principal, and I'll be sharing that with the staff this week. Just real quick, Roosevelt, the HVAC project, we're still on schedule. Glassman Corporation's been really good. We've worked closely. We've had several meetings with them, met and discussed timelines and schedules, and it looks like we are just almost near go to getting that project off the ground. Most likely we'll be kind of starting to see some progress in mid-March, and we'll get quite a bit done during spring break. So really appreciate it, Glassman Corporation, and excited to get that thing going. We've talked several times about the Rockwell basement. That was previously the Learning Center's classroom, and we did have some water damage and some issues that we were trying to clean up. We have begun doing the cleanup of that, and we'll be repurposing that space, kind of a dual purpose space. We'll be turning one end of it into some office space for some of our directors. We'll be moving Rusty and Scott into some office space, along with Brooke Callaway, who serves in the maintenance offices. That will be getting our directors inside the building here. We'll make them a little more accessible. We'll also have one end will be a meeting space, a really nice meeting space, and that'll be really helpful. So we're just repurposing that space, and I think it'll end up being a really nice space for us. And just last week's cold spell, I know it's hard to imagine that last week was just a week ago that we were all suffering. But I did want to give a quick shout out. We had, of all the buildings that our heating and air went, we struggled. We had moments at all our buildings probably with heating last week. That kind of cold weather just really put the stress on all of our systems. Credit goes to our staff, our maintenance staff, for the work that they did. But I did want to give a quick shout out. Hayes Middle School had a compressor go down in midweek, and the week to have something like that go down. Credit to our middle school staff, Mr. Almers, moving classes around, making spaces that were heated available for students and staff to continue, but also just our maintenance staff. I can't imagine they had to work on the compressor up on top of the roof for several days.
Yikes.
In that 30 below, I guess how you do that is you put a tent up there, and you put sandbags around it, and you put a little space heater in, and you work on the unit as you try to keep your, and they did make several trips up and down as they had to warm themselves back up. So credit to Aaron part of Aaron Gray, part of our maintenance staff, the work that he did to get that compressor. Also, shout out to Rusty. He made a midnight run to Kansas City to pick up a new compressor and bring it back the next morning. So credit to him for the work that he did to get that heat going as fast as possible. So that's all I have for my update.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we need a big thanks to Aaron and Rusty, it sounds like, right? That's great.
Ron, on the basement repurpose, do we have a bids on that, or who's doing it?
We're doing the majority of that with our staff. We are doing some block on the wall. It is dryling walls is building some block inside that.
I know there's asbestos in this building. Have we hired somebody to do the abatement of that process, or how do we do that?
I am not aware of asbestos. I mean, I don't know. As far as that project, was there asbestos?
Yeah, I mean, like the floor tile had asbestos in it, and just was wondering, because I just walked through, there's a lot of dust around there, just want to make sure that all this building is safe.
Yeah, the tile will go down, as long as, and that floor tile, as long as you don't break it, you know.
Yeah, it's friable, yeah.
It's that, you're good, so.
But I think all that has to be encapsulated and has to be done by a licensed person, so I hope we're doing it by the book.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate on what it's going to cost to do that project?
I don't,
I think the block work is really the only thing we're hiring out.
yeah, I was gonna say,
I want to say that was,
But I mean, even materials, our in-house people, what's the estimated cost?
I'd have to go back and look for you. It wasn't, yeah, I couldn't.
It's under 20.
I'd be guessing if I said it off the top of my head, but I should sure go back and look and see what we think.
Okay, we can, maybe in a future meeting, let us know.
yeah. We're gonna have some nice office space for relatively cheap money.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate the report. Okay, let's move on to action/discussion items. We have a lease agreement to discuss, perception survey to discuss, the school calendar. We're going to discuss moving to 2-year contracts for district and building leadership, and we're going to discuss extending the district administrative contracts. Two of these folks are just discussions, I should say. So perception survey discussion, and we're going to have a discussion about the 2-year contract issue. The others, lease agreement, calendar, and contracts are action items. So, I'll stop talking and let Ron explain the lease agreement issue.
Okay, this is just simply, just an action that is required to enter a lease purchase. You will be approving a resolution that you will just your plans are to enter a lease purchase agreement. And after you approve that resolution, what will happen is tomorrow morning, this plan for the Roseville HVAC will be sent out to banks, all our local banks will receive a proposal to enter to give us a proposal for terms for financing. And if they choose to, we'll bring those back to the board and we will approve those in March. So this is just simply, you're just approving that resolution that you plan to enter a lease purchase to help pay for this project.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we approve this resolution.
All right, I have a motion on the lease issue. Do I have a second? Somebody?
She seconded.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
I just know that we've tried this in the past, and we've had previous boards for some reason that has rejected this, but I think it's a great idea to get the community involved and to try to be able to pay for some of these maintenance issues,
Sure.
as long as we have enough money to take care of it along the way. So,
Yeah, I mean,
good idea.
I will tell you that right now, our obligation, once we get to put this lease purchase on, it will probably have roughly, okay, we assess 8 mils of capital outlay every year. And we will have roughly about $1.5 million tied up in lease payments of that 8 mils that will be used to pay lease.
That's our existing,
That is probably where we want to stay. I would say we would not want to get over obligating over 2 mils. This puts us right at $1.5 million. I think we're in a good spot. I think you'll always have probably at some point, some kind of lease payment on something ongoing. But I think as long as we stay 2 mils or below, I think we're in good shape, and we can continue to then fund other projects, repairs with those remaining 6.5 mils. So I think
was it Felton that came off of lease this year?
Yeah, as you reviewed, 2 of the middle school leases go off, this year?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll be down to, after they go off with payments next year, both of them, which one of them ends up being early, both of them will be partial payments. So they'll come out next year after July 1, but then they'll be done. So that'll leave us just the ECC Oak Park property and this one.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right. If Tammy's still online, motion passes 7-0. Please vote electronically the same way. All righty. Next item is the...
Mr. President,
Yes,
where did we put the volleyball standards? Was it in this
that was, I think it's a 6.4 now. Yeah.
6.4? Okay.
The next item is the district perception survey. Discussion.
Yeah, this is just, I think it was brought as we talked capital outlay and number of projects and dollars that are, attributed to these projects, that where do we go from here, and not letting it just, drop. So the logical next step in visiting with DLR, who is our district's architect for any future bond projects, is they have a district perception survey. This just is offered through them, and it is a phone survey. Their goal is to reach 300 stakeholders in our community. Might mean they have to make 3,000 phone calls to get 300, but once they get 300, that gives them the statistical margin to assure us that the results are accurate. I've included the survey. I think there's 25 questions, if I remember right.
Pretty lengthy.
Yeah, but those are the questions, and it's not just, and just to clarify, this isn't just about a bond issue. This is perceptions of our district and what people feel about our district. I would tell you, having been in districts where bond issues have passed, when perception is good or high, your likelihood to pass a bond issue is high. So it gives us some good information, some good feedback on giving us some direction as to maybe what you guys would be thinking in terms of working towards some capital improvements in our district. So it's a graded survey, meaning asking patrons when they hear the questions to give an A, B, C, D, or maybe an F, I believe. So the questions we have worked through as an administrative team, shared it with building administrators, and we worked through them. We've made some changes, some tweaks here or there. We feel like it's a good survey in terms of what we feel like gives us a good idea of perceptions in our district. Of course, if the board has any recommendations, we can consider those as well.
Okay.
So, and it's just, if you're okay with moving on this,
Got a question for you, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. It says the connecting with 300 stakeholders in our community.
yeah.
You have Any idea how they're doing that?
Phone.
No, I meant, is it a random sample survey? Or,
They would divide the city into quadrants,
okay,
and they would
target,
target all four quadrants, and each having an
75.
equal number or a fair number in each of the four quadrants.
okay.
Now, kind of to piggyback on that, DLR, you said it's going to be a phone survey.
Yes.
Landline,
Well, no, it's not this landline. I don't know exactly how they get a hold of people.
Get a hold of cell
We provide numbers. We won't be providing that.
There's a lot of vendors out there that
Yeah.
we
They
can
have
go
them.
with. Yeah.
what I was afraid of, if you look at just landlines,
Oh, yeah.
it's not a good survey.
We also have the ability to offer an online portion of this. Now, what I'm told is that the online portion doesn't give any statistical accuracy. So that's the reason why the phone is the proposed survey, but when we could offer an online and have people submit their opinions online, it just doesn't, it's not validated as statistically accurate. If that makes sense.
It's a convenient sample, right.
Mike probably
Yeah.
understands that.
Yeah, it would not be a good idea to base any judgment off that, but it might give, but it can give you a sense of what people are thinking, but you wouldn't, yeah.
I think it's a good first
I think it's a good idea, plus it opens up, a lot of times when you do these kind of surveys, people that don't get called may feel like they're not able to put any input in, so that's a good reason to have an online version so they can give us their information. Now, you'll use that as one set of data, and then the other one is a different set. Okay, enough of that. All right, guys, yes?
Ron, did they do this survey last time? And do they have data from last time, or is this different?
They did not do the same survey.
Did not do a survey.
They did a quick survey, but it was very, 3 questions, I think,
Yeah, I think
just
3 or
on the
4
bond.
questions. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all it was
This
related
is
to.
more about just gauging perception of the district, which I have always been a proponent. That is the first step to a successful bond.
That's a good idea.
Is gauging what your community feels about the district. And if the perception is high, it's usually, and if the board has the interest, it's usually a good match.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak for Tammy here, if
Cool.
that's all right. I appreciate having a survey before other discussions begin with any facility bond discussion. Given the unknown impact of COVID to our community, I think the survey is even more needed to help guide BOE for direction. I support moving forward with this survey.
I think it's a good first step.
Good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Is anybody opposed doing the survey?
no.
Okay. Thumbs up on the survey. Okay, next item is the calendar. Yes. 6.3.
Yes, this is just the proposed 2021-22 school calendar. We worked through with the calendar committee. Basically, an August 18th start date. That was something I felt was really important this year as we're doing the Roosevelt project, giving, I know it sounds like we're starting here in mid-March and that should be wrapped up, but according to Glassman's, they're going to need every day that they can to ensure that August 1 is their kind of target date, and they feel like there could possibly be small stuff and nothing that would prevent us from starting school, but they were appreciative too of this August 18th start. This gives us a little more time. It doesn't really push back our end date, I believe, and I don't have it in front of me. May 20th.
May 20th.
20th. May 20th is our last day of school, which is still falls in line. The one big thing on this year's calendar is spring break has been established and coordinated with the Regents academics calendar, so it'll be with all universities. We will be with Fort Hays, but we will be with the other Regent universities as well. And that's kind of going back to what was previously done.
Yeah.
But it did change. So the early release dates are not marked on the calendar. We still need to get future approval for that. So it will be marked as the second Wednesday of each month.
Make a motion to approve the proposed 2021-2022 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Good. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the calendar?
I just noticed there's nothing on snow days like it shows on school calendar. And one other quick question, are we still going to look at next year having the possibility of remote classes if needed? I know a lot of schools last week with the cold took remote days rather than snow days.
Are you asking if are we gonna have remote days instead of snow days? Is that the question?
Okay.
I don't want to be the guy that gets stabbed in the back. I think, yes, I think there is always that opportunity, and I think should we get into a situation, because of what we've done, I think we can quickly assimilate a fairly effective and pretty hearty remote teaching environment. But I would tell you this, I think sometimes snow days are something that are precious, and I would hate to take away a snow day because sometimes it's just a nice break for students, it's a nice break for staff. As we get into the winter months and just the churning through, it's just sometimes there's nothing better than snow days.
Okay.
No actual plans to get rid of snow days.
But we'll still have them built into the calendar.
Yeah, those are designated.
That was my initial question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those when we do that at the beginning of the year, we mark that on our, we submit that with our SO 66.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the adopting the calendar, all in favor of passing the motion about the 2021-22 calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes 7-0. Not sure why I had such a hard time getting through that one. Okay, now we're going to the volleyball net issue. So, it's still, I think, it's 6.4, I think it still says 2.5, that's okay. The motion is to approve the drop-down volleyball nets. You want to give us a rundown of what that's all about, Ron?
I can
Yeah.
jump in.
Or Chris, okay. Yep.
So, a couple little meetings back, we were talking general capital outlay plans. We had allocated about $20,000 for the upgrades to the volleyball systems. When we got the quote back, and that was the hope at that time was we'd have enough to do drop-in net, competition net, and Gym A, as well as take care of Gym B. But we knew we were waiting to see basically what the final numbers would be. Well, because of some work that they've got to do, so we got to change how in Gym B to do the drop-in, we got to change how the one basketball goal comes down so that the couldn't collide, so we got to slant that, come up sideways, kind of like what they did in Gym A a couple of years ago. So basically, it pushes us over the 20,000. In consultation with Lance and Marty, our two options were, well, let's do one, either the drop-ins or the drop-down for Gym B. In looking at it, there's some activity funds at the high school. So we're going to commit still $20,000 out of capital outlay. The remainder of those funds will come from some building funds that exist through different things like pop sales and ticket sales and things like that, to be able to pick up the difference. And then going back to AFCO, we were able to, couple of big advantages. One, we get the whole job done a little bit cheaper because they can do both projects while they're here. So we actually have a little bit of saving, and we get them both done at the same time. And now we're done with volleyball systems at Hayes High. So keeping our total capital outlay expenditure at $20,000 and finishing up the project, they felt like it was worth using some of their other high school funds to make that happen. So, any specific questions?
Last year, we spent how much to put in the new ones? Last April, we just put in all new ones in the Gym A, correct?
In Gym A, we put in the new drop-downs, as I understand it.
And that was paid by the high school activity?
No, that was capital outlay funds.
That was capital outlay funds too?
I'm working off of what I think I know to be true. So it was, okay, yeah.
And how much was that? You remember?
I'm gonna.
It was more than this. So.
Yeah.
It was about, I think it was about 40 when it was all said and done. It was two, so you had two drop-down systems. Oh, I want to say around 11,000 apiece, so you're at about 22. Same thing, we had to make the basketball goals on the outside have a side ascension instead of, because as Chris, they couldn't have this volleyball net coming up while the basketball goal was over it for construction liability reasons. So, yeah, you know,
All of this?
about 6,000, 7,000 apiece for those, because they were only able to reuse some of those goals. They had to put new, I don't know what you call it, the pipes that hold it, those standards. They had to put those in. Now, they were able to use the backboard, and from what I understand, they're able to use most of what we will be able to salvage from the current goals in Gym B. So, just to kind of, as a long-term look at it, the drop-down goal will be the same as the competition drop-down goals that are in Gym A, which, you know, it'll survive, you know, decades of wear and tear. Right now, what we have in there is a pole system that fits into two sleeves that go down into the floor. At this point, and Carrie, who works on, who uses this court quite a bit, can attest to this, it has been used to the point to where the poles are not only thin in, but the two sleeves are pretty much either wore out or obsolete. We would basically have to get a whole new pole system put in there, and that's to the tune of probably about 6,000 to 7,000, depending on, you know, what system you get. So we are going to put a very nice pole system into Gym A, which will allow us to have the minimum seating requirement for us to be able to hold a sub-state volleyball tournament with both sets of bleachers out. But because it's bunched in with the pulse, or excuse me, with the drop-down system in Gym A, we're able to get that system for a little under 4,000. So, you know, there's your difference in the.
So that's going to be the one, so you have one court for like a championship game?
Exactly.
Is that how that works?
So, for example, our maroon and gold invite that we started a couple of years ago, what we'll do is when we get to the championship matches, it'll be a slam dunk. We raise the two competition drop downs. We'll take about a 15-minute recess, drop the poles in, lift the two in basketball goals will be up, and we will have approximately 15 to 20 feet for a good run up. What's the serve? Yeah, the jump serve. So, you know, we will have more than our minimal amount required in the out-of-bounds areas and those.
And you'll put in new lines or something, or you'll have to add those?
Well, we don't
For another
have
court?
to. We can do what 4 days does, or we just have a nice, you know, we have a nice taping system. You can get taping systems that allow you to do that very quickly. And volleyball courts, fortunately, don't require a whole lot of lines, so, yeah, we'll be able to do very little.
Very good, very good.
Are you editing the motion for $20,000?
Good.
Isn't that what Chris said?
We'll pay, I mean.
Well, it does say that in the-
estimate, or that's the set price. When it comes on the backside, as we distribute funds, 20,000 of it will come out of our capital outlay fund, and the remainder will come out of a building activity fund.
So Marty,
Yeah.
he has a fund, I can't remember if he's taken out of his top fund or in his other activity funds. I have some money in my AD budget that we'll be able to tap into also. It will be approximately, I don't know, Mr. Hickman.
Oh, we have it.
There'll be about 5,000 that we'll need to come up with out of various funds.
All right. Okay, not actually going to amend it, but if you want to call for an amendment.
So it's a range between 20 and 30,000, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, the price of the job to get both systems in and done is $31,338. 20,000 of that will come out of the district's capital outlay money, And then, as Lance is saying, there's 2 or 3 other funds at the high school level between pop funds and some AD discretionary funds. The 11,338 will come out of those multiple funds from the high school.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Has anybody made a motion yet?
That part wouldn't necessarily be in the motion, that's just the accounting
Right.
for us on the backside.
Yep, I understand that, no problem. Okay, I'm going to move to approve the motion as presented. Do I have a second? What's that?
Tammy would like to.
Oh, okay, Tammy, good job. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, any discussion that we haven't had yet? Let's not go over, okay. I'm going to call for the vote. Please, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes 7-0. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, now we're back on to what was 6.4, 2-year administrator contracts. Discussion.
This was just, I think Craig was the one who brought this to board's attention, so I put it on the agenda.
Okay, since I asked Ron to put it on the agenda and it was tabled last month, at the last meeting, I am supportive of bringing our administrators on a 2-year contract for several different reasons. This board has come in the last year to build confidence with our staff, our teachers, and our administrators, and I really feel it's getting harder and harder to find good teachers. It's getting harder and harder to find good administrators. And over the last several years, we've had a majority, I think I can say, of administrators apply that have not a lot of experience. And if we had 2-year contracts, I think it would build the field of applicants to move their families to Hayes and make the hard decisions that are needed with school improvement, hiring staff, whether you have to make a lot of different decisions as an administrator. Sometimes they run from one year to the next. I know a lot of districts have 2-year contracts for the superintendent as well as our district. And I know we moved away from 2-year contracts as a district several years ago. The board looked at it, and I know when I was looking at the pros and cons of having a 2-year contract, rewards administrators with a vote of confidence to receive extensions. That is a vote of confidence because they can keep working and move through. It's a good recruiting benefit, and it promotes retention of good administrators in the district with that. Because, guys, we're in western Kansas, and a lot of the candidates not sure what's on the other side of I-135 to come out this direction until they see us in action. The cons of it could require some administrators not to receive an extension for a subpar performance. I don't see that as a con. If they are doing a performance, we don't extend that contract. And I know that puts extra pressure on the superintendent at that direction, but that is part of the administration support, is building a good administration through there. That's all.
Does anybody have any sense, thank you very much, sense of how many districts or what percentage of districts out here in western Kansas have 1-year contracts and 2-year contracts? Any idea?
I did try to find some information on your KSB. I could not find anything that said how many districts do 2-year. I know I was a building principal in Abilene, I had a 2-year contract.
Do we have a list of people, like, from Roosevelt or O'Laughlin that would have applied for the job if we had 2-year contracts? Or better yet, do we have a list of those that didn't apply because we only had 1-year contracts?
I don't think any of that information's there.
I guess that's my, I don't know, I guess that was part of my thing, looking at this a number of years ago when it was talked about, is, there was also always talk of, oh, we get better people or retention and stuff like that, but in my opinion, we have a lot of great people now in our administration and have had with the one-year contracts. In fact, Craig, I believe you probably had a 2 to 3 year agreement for a number of years when you were there.
No building principal has ever had a 3-year contract.
I said 2.
Yeah, they hired 2-year contracts.
Right.
And I have talked to several people that had 2-year contracts that moved from one town not near Hayes. And that was one of the determining factors, because you sign a 1-year contract in July, and then you may know in February if you don't have a job. And,
Go ahead.
and a 2-year contract gives you enough time to prove yourself.
I guess what I was looking at is, I guess where I was going is, we got a lot of people after that. Tom Albers, in fact, that took over, Anita, who's sitting out here, Chris, all of these are all 1-year contracts, and I think we're very fortunate to have all those people. So I guess my thing I'm looking at is, I have yet to see any real evidence that, offering 2-year contracts is such a big deal. I've run several successful businesses over the years, and in fact, one of them we did a number of years back, we took the opposite approach. Instead of signing contracts with people, we said, let us come in and prove ourselves to you. Let us come in and show you that, we can do a great job. And we built those relationships on trust and not a piece of paper. And I can see, don't get me wrong, I can see your portion of the other one there, but I guess I feel we have great people in this administration. They do a great job. And I think we are building that trust, and I think we've been doing that as well over the last year or two. So I guess I just don't see, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that people are doing a good job, so.
I just hope it will help with hiring in the future, because a few years ago, when we looked back at the principal that preceded Marty at the high school, we probably got 20 to 30 to 40 applicants. I don't know how many they will get for the high school this time, but I can't imagine more than 10, or it'll be a lot less. Those are hard jobs.
But I guess my point is, I think it's hard anywhere. I don't know that just because they have a 2-year contract, are they going to get necessarily more people just because of that?
Wow.
I guess that'd be my question, is if we had people come in and literally say, you know what, I'm not going to take that job because you're only offering a 2-year contract. That's a different story. But that's just my 2 cents.
And I know, like at the college area, administrators, professors work towards tenure. We're not looking at tenure, we're just looking at a 2-year contract. It could be at any time moved to a 1-year contract.
All right, any other board members have any comments on this? We're having just discussion right now.
Discussion right now. So.
Yeah, just discussion, so.
I think it's a good idea to look at it and to see, especially if we're looking at trying to recruit a new high school principal. And if they're coming from a district with 2-year, we might want to see what, so we have time, maybe we can look at it and bring it back, table it, or discuss it later.
Oh, I think next time it comes to us, we should probably have a motion and either vote up or down, I think.
I guess I would like to know what the administrators think. I guess, the people that are in the room, as far as.
Yeah, I would say this, as superintendent, I have a 2-year, and I think, and that, I think as Craig mentioned, that's pretty typical across the state to superintendents receive a 2-year contract. I think from building administrators, other district staff, I think it depends on your district, who is offered. I would say, I think Lance's point, I don't necessarily know if we're going to gain more applicants, that we could possibly, but the thing is, I do think once people find out that you are offering it, I think it is a nice feather in our cap and in their corner too. So, I think there are some advantages. I would also say there's, as superintendent who evaluates, it does put a little more pressure, and it creates some situations that are tough because you kind of have to, probably let someone know, as you would not be extending someone, for some form of performance, it would be pretty obvious. You wouldn't technically be saying that out loud, but it would probably be the other idea that it's kind of a wake-up call. So, that does put a little more pressure. We have a great administrative team that are outstanding, and so concerned about anything that we have currently that would make me walk away.
Okay.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you.
Tammy, do you have anything to add before we move on? Michelle, anything? Okay. I didn't hear Tammy say anything, so. Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of an audio delay that's.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's what I'm speaking for, so if you give 1 second here.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Nope, nothing yet.
Okay. That's great. All right, we're moving to 6.6 now, I guess, right? Because we move, anyway, district administrator contracts. We will consider the approval of extending district and building level administrator contracts tonight. So, we had I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, ask for a second, and then if somebody wants to make an amendment to this, then we can do that. Does that make sense to everybody?
On where?
Are we going to executive session before?
Well, if we have a motion to move into executive session, I think that's what you're doing. That's what I'm thinking, just
Okay.
to keep it nice and straight. So I'm going to make a motion. I move to approve the plan to extend the district and building level administrator contracts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now discussion.
Okay, tell me what your motion was again.
It was just to approve the district and building level administrator contracts.
All the current
Oh, okay.
contracts.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just saying, let's go for it. We have a second. Somebody want to make an amendment to move into,
I'm sorry.
that's all right.
So we're going to vote after executive session?
Okay, why don't we do this? Somebody make a motion to amend the motion presented, moving the vote to follow an executive session meeting. So we can continue having discussions about this issue if we want to publicly, and then move into executive session at the end of the meeting, come back and vote on this. That's what I think will work.
You have a second?
I made the motion, and I have a second. Does somebody else want to make the amendment?
No.
I amend that we have the vote after we have executive session, so we have a chance to have Ron go through like he did last year.
Okay, the motion, there's an amendment on the table. Do I have a second of that amendment?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion about the amendment itself? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Me. Just because.
I oppose
Motion
as well.
passes 6 to...
I opposed.
Oh, wait. Motion passes 5-2. So please vote electronically the same way you voted verbally. All right, so what we'll do, now we still have the motion on the floor, right? We just did the amendment. The amendment passed to hold a vote on this after executive session. So, the motion on the floor itself needs to be approved. Right, Bill? So if in a moment,
Mr. President, I'm sorry, but you've got me confused.
I'm just thinking, we passed the amendment and that passed, right? But we never completed the actual
Well,
motion.
you passed an amendment to go into executive
We go into
session
executive
before you
session
vote.
now.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
now you need to go into executive session,
I was making it too complicated.
as I
Okay.
understand.
Very good. So let's do the public discussion portion now, and then we can go into executive session later, and then come back and vote. We don't have to discuss more.
Well, yeah, I really can't, I can't.
No, not you. I mean, us.
So we gotta go to executive.
That's why we can't discuss personnel.
I guess, I'm just going to discuss, I think we're extending the contracts, so I say, that's why I made the motion to move forward, but that's my point. So. All right, let's move on to the next item. Future meeting agenda requests. Anything, folks? I guess we will have that that issue about 2-year contracts come back to us at some point.
Sure, I don't know if we want it next meeting, or, I don't know.
Lance, what do you
More
think?
information.
You want 2 weeks is fine?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Next
Yeah, it'd be
time.
nice to have some information about what's the percentage of districts
Yeah,
that
I
have
don't
it.
know if I can find that, but I'll do some executive session.
Might be a case of just calling around to some of the local districts.
Sure,
You know.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading for Tammy, and I was a little bit slow in the uptake, sorry about that. Tammy, back to your previous discussion, wanted me to read, I do not see any reason to go into executive session, just becomes gossip session to micromanage Ron as superintendent. Vote. And, and because of the delay, she wasn't counted as a no vote, but she did vote against the change, the amendment.
Oh, thank you very much, Tammy. So
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault.
the record should indicate the motion passed, the amendment passed 4-3. Next month, we need to start talking negotiations, so you'll come to us with some,
Yeah.
Next meeting after some
we'll bring some
ideas.
things that we've been discussing.
okay? Very good, okay. All right, that is the end of this portion of our meeting, so we'll move into executive session. I move to enter into executive session pursuant to the Kansas Open Meetings Act for the purposes of discussing matters relating to non-elected personnel. The individuals asked to attend the executive session will be the board and the superintendent. And Shanna? Okay. And then during that executive session, we'll ask you to leave, and then we'll discuss your contract. Excellent. Okay.
President Walker,
Yes.
I know I may be out of order, but I'd like to make a note on the record as a member of the press,
Sure.
that if you have an item that you are voting on in public session, that I believe that should be discussed in public and not in private. I believe this is in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Personnel.
Okay, let me clarify real quick. We are going to vote in public after the executive session, right?
Yes, but generally when you have a vote in public, the reasoning behind that vote is also discussed in public.
My understanding was, and I could be wrong, is that since we're dealing with non-elected personnel, the board discusses those issues behind, executive session, outside of the public. Yeah. Bill, what's your interpretation of this?
You have a right to go into executive session, discuss personnel matters so as to protect the privacy interests of individuals. It's my understanding you're going into executive session to discuss evaluations of your administrators as to whether or not it's going to be recommended to continue their contracts or to non-renew those contracts.
Okay.
You then come out of executive session, and you can do it tonight or at some other meeting, vote to either extend a contract or not extend a contract.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me at least.
Sure. Yes, yes.
And, Mr. President, I think you could tell the public that you've made arrangements that that vote will be public. It's still going to be on the Facebook or they're staying to click it back in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll go ahead and move forward. Where was I? I made the motion. So that was me. The open meeting will resume in the boardroom at, oh man, we need a little break, probably 5-minute break, and then come back at 20, so let's round it off to make it 8:30. And then we'll have our vote publicly. Do I have a second to that crazy motion?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. All right, any more discussion about the motion to move into executive session? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Okay, anybody abstaining? Have a word from Tammy yet? She votes no? Okay. Well, I voted yes this time, so the motion passes 6-2. 5-2? All right, please vote electronically the same way. We are now in executive session. Yeah. Once we get the thumbs up that we're
Is Dan
back on
still over
live,
there?
we'll...
Yeah.
Taking us live, I guess I could give it some.
And Mike,
Yes?
am I going to be back on Zoom or am I remaining on the phone?
Oh,
I'd say leave her on
do you want to stay on the phone?
I sure can.
Okay.
Just curious though, is media part of this returning?
Well,
Yes.
yes, there is. Yep, we have one member of the press, that is correct.
Very good.
We're back in public session now. There's a motion on the floor to approve the for the approval of extending district and building level administrator contracts. And there was a second, I believe. Okay, so the motion is seconded. We've had discussion in executive session. Does anybody want to say anything discussion-wise that's in the public?
Mr. President, I would like to bring the superintendent's contract out of the other contracts like they're normally done. We usually do this superintendent contract, and then the next meeting we do the administrative contracts.
Okay, do you want to make a motion for that amendment?
Move that we bring the superintendent's contract out of the regular, all the other administrators.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to the amendment? Okay, the motion, the amendment does not receive a second, so motion dies. So now we're back to the original motion. Any other discussion points?
I want to say that, again, this is just a point of information. I work in the university on helping to recruit really young, diverse talent for the university. So I just want to say that from that standpoint, I hope that the school board, the school district is doing the same thing, really trying to recruit far and wide. As far as state goes, I know there's state laws as far as for credentialing and licensing. So I hope, you're trying to expand, not just be sticking within this small district.
Yeah.
Try to get young and fresh faces to really promote that as well when they're out there. When I've seen those positions opening up, I really hope we're casting a net to get some, diverse thought and character and fresh faces.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote for approval of the extending the district and building level administrative contracts. All in favor?
Mr. President,
Yes?
I'm sorry, did you say discussion again? I missed that. I would just like to say I will be voting against this, not against the administrators that we talked about, the building level administrators. I do have some concerns with I didn't want to do this out like this, but I do have concerns, and with other board members' recommendations, maybe we need to have more discussion about this, but I'll be voting against it, mainly because of the superintendent's contract.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Anybody abstaining? Okay, motion passes 6-1. Please vote electronically the same way. Okay, that is the last thing of our meeting tonight, so I'm going to move to close the meeting. Do you have a second? Second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Dang it. And everybody